Most people don't quit routines because they are lazy. They quit because the routine slowly turns into a burden they cannot carry. You didn't fail because you lack discipline. You failed because you were taught to build routines that fight your life instead of fitting into it. That's why you start strong. That's why you feel hopeful. And that's why it quietly falls apart. This is not a video about pushing harder or waking up earlier. This is about understanding why routines break when life gets real, and how to build one that stays with you, even on tired days, even on messy days, even when motivation disappears. If you've ever felt like you keep starting over, this message is for you. Most routines are built for a version of you that rarely exists. Most people create routines on days when they feel motivated, calm, and hopeful. They imagine waking up with energy, a clear mind, and strong focus. So the routine they design only works in that perfect emotional state, but that version of you does not appear every day. It shows up once in a while and then disappears. Most days you wake up tired. Your mind is already full. Your phone pulls your attention. Your responsibilities compete for your energy, and your emotions are not settled. When a routine depends on feeling good, it collapses the moment you feel normal. And normal means distracted, overwhelmed, low on energy, and mentally busy. This is why many people believe they lack discipline. But the truth is, their routine was never designed for real life. A routine that truly lasts is created for days when motivation is low, for mornings that feel rushed and messy, for moments when your mind is scattered and your heart feels heavy. It works even when you do not feel inspired, even when you are tired, even when you do not feel like showing up. When a routine can survive your weakest state, it slowly strengthens you, and over time it begins to lift you into your strongest version. The routines that change lives are not built for perfect days. They are built for ordinary days, and because they survive those days, they eventually transform everything. Sudden change triggers resistance, not discipline. When people decide to change their routine, they often try to change everything at once. They wake up one day and say, "From today, I will be a new person. I will wake up earlier, work harder, eat better, stay focused, and never miss a day." But the mind does not experience this as improvement. It experiences it as danger. Your brain is built to protect what is familiar. Even if the familiar life is uncomfortable, it still feels safe. So when you try to change too much too fast, your mind pushes back. That pushback is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is not a lack of discipline. It is your mind trying to pull you back to what it already knows. This is why sudden extreme routines fail so quickly. At first, you feel excited and powerful, but underneath that excitement, the brain is building resistance. After a few days, that resistance turns into excuses, then fatigue, then quitting. Routines that last do the opposite. They change so slowly that the brain does not feel threatened. The steps feel small enough to be ignored, but they are repeated often enough to become normal. When change feels familiar, the mind stops fighting it. And when the mind stops fighting you, consistency becomes natural. Slow progress may feel boring, but it creates stability. And stability is what allows discipline to grow without force. Time-based routines break trigger-based routines, survive. Many people build their routines around exact times. They decide, this task must happen at this hour, and that habit must happen at that hour. At first, it feels organized and controlled. But real life does not move in straight lines. Some days you wake up late. Some days something urgent happens. Some days your schedule shifts without warning. When a routine depends on perfect timing, it breaks easily. And once the time is missed, the mind treats the whole day as failed. This creates frustration and loss of motivation, not because the routine was difficult, but because it was fragile. Strong routines are built around moments that naturally repeat, not around clocks that constantly change. You wake up, you eat, you leave the house, you return home, you pray, you finish a task. These moments happen even on chaotic days. When a habit is attached to something that already exists in your day, you do not need to remember it. You do not need to fight yourself. You simply move from one action to the next. This removes decision-making. And decision-making is what drains energy. The less you ask yourself, when should I do this, the more likely you are to actually do it. This is why routines built on repeated moments last longer. They flow with life instead of fighting it. And because they survive disruption, they quietly become permanent. Willpower is not the solution, design is. Most people believe that consistency comes from pushing harder. They think if they just try more, force themselves more, and stay strict, everything will work. At the beginning, this feels true. Willpower feels strong when motivation is fresh. But willpower is not stable. It drains when you are tired. It weakens when you make too many decisions. It fades when emotions are heavy or stress is high. This is why routines that depend on constant self-control eventually collapse. A routine that lasts is not built on force. It is built on design. Good design removes friction. It makes the right action easier than the wrong one. It reduces the number of decisions you have to make each day. Over time, a well-designed routine stops feeling like effort. It becomes familiar and automatic. You no longer need to convince yourself. If you constantly need to push yourself to follow your routine, it is not a sign that you lack discipline. It is a sign that the system you built is fighting you. The goal is not to become endlessly strong. The goal is to build a structure that carries you even when strength is low. Missing once is normal. Quitting because of it is a choice. Many people do not fail at routine because they stop trying. They fail because they believe one mistake means everything is ruined. They miss one day, and suddenly the routine feels broken. They tell themselves they have failed. They feel disappointed in themselves, and that emotional weight becomes heavier than the routine itself. The problem is not the missed day. The problem is the meaning they attach to it. Human life is not perfectly consistent. Energy rises and falls. Unexpected problems appear. Emotions change. Responsibilities interrupt. Missing a day is part of being human. It is normal. It is expected. It is unavoidable. But most people treat that missed day like proof that they are not disciplined. So instead of calmly returning, they punish themselves mentally. That punishment creates shame. Shame creates avoidance. And avoidance quietly turns into quitting. This is how many routines die. Not from lack of effort, but from emotional pressure. A routine that truly lasts is built with understanding. It accepts that there will be breaks. It expects disruption, and it allows return without guilt. When you remove guilt from the process, coming back becomes easy. There is no emotional wall to climb. No inner argument. No self-criticism. You simply continue. Consistency is not about perfect attendance. It is about not turning a small pause into a full stop. People who succeed with routines understand something simple. Progress is never lost from one missed day. It is lost when you decide to stop completely. When you stop judging yourself for breaks, you remove the fear of starting again. And when starting again feels safe, consistency becomes natural and sustainable. Routine must become identity, not a task. Most people treat routine like a task they have to complete, something on a list, something they need to force themselves to do. And because it feels like a task, the mind keeps negotiating. Should I do it now? Can I skip today? I will do it later. I will start again tomorrow. Every day becomes a mental argument. When routine lives at the level of action, it is fragile because actions depend on mood, energy, motivation, and emotional state. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel weak, and when routine is only an action, it disappears on weak days. This is why routines fail again and again, but something changes completely when routine becomes part of who you believe you are, when it becomes identity, not effort, not struggle, not something you force. Identity does not negotiate. You do not wake up and debate whether you are the person you are. You simply act in alignment with it. When someone sees themselves as a person who shows up, they show up even when they do not feel like it. Not because they are pushing themselves, but because it feels natural. The action feels normal. Skipping feels strange. This is the quiet power of identity. When you say, "I am trying to build discipline," you are placing routine outside of yourself. It becomes optional. It becomes something you may or may not do. But when you say, "I am the kind of person who keeps small promises to myself," you are no longer chasing discipline. You are expressing who you are. At that point, motivation becomes unnecessary. Because you are not asking yourself, "What should I do?" You already know who you are. Identity removes friction. It removes debate. It removes emotional resistance. You do not need to feel inspired to be yourself. Over time, each small action strengthens this identity. Every time you show up, you reinforce the belief, this is who I am. And the stronger that belief becomes, the easier routine feels. Eventually, the routine stops feeling like effort. It feels like alignment. This is why people with strong routines often look calm. They are not constantly fighting themselves. They are not relying on willpower. They are simply acting in agreement with their self-image. When routine becomes identity, missing feels temporary, returning feels natural, and consistency becomes something you live, not something you chase. Momentum matters more than visible results. Most people give up on routines because they are watching the wrong thing. They are waiting to see big results, clear change, visible proof that their effort is working. And when that proof does not appear quickly, they begin to doubt themselves. They ask, why am I doing this? Why is nothing changing? Why does it feel like effort with no reward? What they do not realize is that routines do not work loudly in the beginning. They work quietly. At first, nothing looks different from the outside. Your life may look the same. Your situation may feel the same. Your problems may still be there. But something important is happening underneath. The most important thing a routine creates is not results. It creates movement. And movement creates momentum. Momentum is when action starts to feel easier. When starting takes less effort than before. When stopping feels uncomfortable. But momentum is invisible. You cannot measure it easily. You cannot post it. You cannot show it to anyone. So people ignore it. They focus only on outcomes. Weight lost. Money earned. Skills mastered. Life changed. And because those outcomes take time, they quit too early. This is where most routines die. Right before they start working. In the early stage, the routine is not meant to reward you. It is meant to train you, to show your mind that you can repeat an action again and again. Without drama, each repetition may feel small, even pointless, but every repetition makes the next one easier. This is how momentum builds. Quietly, gradually, without excitement. Once momentum exists, results begin to follow naturally. But if you quit before momentum forms, you never reach that stage. You keep restarting, always at the hardest part, always needing motivation, always feeling resistance. People who succeed with routines understand this deeply. They do not look for proof early. They look for rhythm. They care more about showing up than about seeing change, because they know that change is delayed. But momentum compounds. When momentum is strong, you do not need to convince yourself. You do not need to argue. You do not need to wait for the right mood. You act because acting feels normal. This is why focusing on visible results too early is dangerous. It creates pressure, and pressure kills consistency. When you remove pressure and focus only on repetition, the routine becomes lighter. You stop asking, is this working? And start asking, did I show up? That simple shift keeps routines alive long enough to actually change your life. If you can't live with it for years, it will not last months. Most routines fail because they were never built to live inside a real life for a long time. They were built to feel impressive for a short moment. People design routines that look strong on paper. They look disciplined. They look powerful. They look like a complete transformation. But they forget to ask one simple question: can I live like this for years? If the answer is no, the routine will not even survive a few months. A routine that feels heavy every day slowly creates pressure. That pressure builds quietly. At first you ignore it, then you feel it, and eventually you look for a way to escape it. This is human nature. No one stays in a system that feels like punishment. If your routine feels like you are constantly forcing yourself, restricting yourself, fighting yourself, you will eventually rebel against it. Not because you are weak, but because the routine is not aligned with how humans live. Life is not stable. Some weeks are calm, some weeks are heavy. Some days you have energy, some days you barely have enough to get through. A routine that sticks respects this reality. It bends instead of breaking. It adjusts instead of collapsing. Many people confuse intensity with effectiveness. They believe the harder the routine feels, the more powerful it must be. But intensity burns fast, and burnout does not announce itself loudly, it arrives quietly. Through loss of interest, through tiredness, through excuses, a sustainable routine feels almost ordinary. It does not demand your entire identity, it fits into your day without consuming it. You do not feel trapped by it, you do not feel controlled by it. You feel supported by it. This is a critical difference. If a routine makes you feel smaller, more stressed, more restricted, it will eventually be abandoned. But if a routine makes your day feel slightly more stable, slightly more organized, slightly more calm, you will protect it. Sustainability means the routine grows with you, not against you. As your life changes, your responsibilities change, your energy changes, the routine adapts. Rigide rutinas fail. Flexible routines survivent. People who keep routines for years are not stronger than others. They are kinder to themselves. They allow days to be lighter. They allow effort to change. They allow life to interrupt. They do not treat routine like a strict rule. They treat it like a quiet agreement with themselves. This is why routines that last do not feel dramatic. They feel normal. They do not rely on motivation. They do not rely on fear. They do not rely on pressure. They rely on acceptance. Acceptance that you are human, acceptance that some days will be messy, acceptance that progress is not straight. When a routine is built with this understanding, it stops feeling temporary. It becomes something you live with, something you return to, something that quietly holds your life together. If you can imagine living with a routine calmly for years, without resentment, without exhaustion, without resistance, then you have built something real. And if you cannot, then no matter how powerful it feels today, it will not last long. The routines that change lives are not the ones that demand everything. They are the ones that stay day after day, year after year. Without asking you to stop being human, you do not need a perfect routine to change your life. You need one that stays. Not one that looks impressive, not one that feels extreme, but one that fits you. A routine should not feel like pressure. It should feel like support, something that quietly holds you together when days are heavy. Build something simple enough to return to, kind enough to forgive missed days, strong enough to stay when motivation leaves, because the routine that truly changes your life is not the one you start with excitement. It is the one you can live with calmly, again and again, for a long time.